Hey guys, what's going on? We've finally wrapped up 2022. This was the last day of the year for trading, the weekend, and then we're off on Monday over the new year as well. So finally, we survived. 2022 was a crazy year. I think it was one of the worst I've ever seen. I've been trading for a while. Here's the SPY from the start in January, just continually bouncing off this downtrend all the way down to here. And now we're in kind of no man's land. Who knows what we'll see in the new year? My hope is we'll start to see some consolidation and a breakout above this downtrending resistance line, but it's anybody's guess. And let's see what happens. I've been doing a lot of research recently. A lot of people are saying the markets are probably going to kind of go sideways for the next year, and things like selling options for premium is probably going to be a good way to make some passive income rather than the typical things we've seen in the bull market over the last decade. Anyway, thought I'd do another part of the options bandits review. This is becoming one of the most popular series for a while, and that's because these option bandits guys have been running a really aggressive ad campaigns on Facebook. So I wrote a whole review of this. I'm trying to update it. I'm trying to keep up with things. It's a difficult service to review for quite a few different reasons. Mainly because they put out so many different alerts and it's very hard to track everything. So I'll leave a link in the description. Come and check it out, and you can see the different reviews like this one, part 1. I did some information about one of the picks here, and then part 2 is here, part 3, and this is part 4 that I'm doing right now. So yeah, lots of feedback on this. People are coming to the Facebook group, which I highly recommend joining. I'll leave a link in the description so you can come there, because really as a group we can talk about these things. We can talk about these things that we see on Facebook and like really get each other's opinions. There's people that have been in Option Bandits for several months now, compared to me. I've only been in it a week or two. And so they can kind of give you a better idea of how they're doing with it, how they work it, how well it's been doing. And so I'll make sure to leave a link to this Facebook group here, which is called How to Make Money from Stock Alert Services. That's the Facebook group I started probably 3 or 4 years ago now. It has 6,000 plus members in it that you can kind of come talk to about different alert services that they find helpful and the ones that they don't. So anyway, wanted to go through today's alerts on Options Bandits and also just talk a little bit more about the company itself. They've been kind enough to let me leave a review up on their ads, which is actually very unusual. I didn't expect it when I first left this, so this is a link to the review that this video will also be going on. So that's a big kudos to them. So I'm glad they do that. Often these companies, especially if they're not absolutely glowing reviews, will take these links down and say, hey, we don't want you posting on here, this isn't good. And I'm not being overly positive. I'm being very honest about these reviews and not being negative, but I'm giving my honest opinion, and I do think that's kind of a feather in their cap that they're actually leaving these like this link on here. So hopefully if you're coming from the ad, you'll find your way to the full review and check out exactly what I've been finding over the last week or two. So a couple of points. I've covered this already. I've emailed them. So Option Bandits guys, if you're still if you're going to watch this video, can you contact me? I've been sending your support emails for the last week, asking if you could at least give us some more indication about the strategy behind your picks every morning. So while these picks are great, the details are awesome, I understand there's a technical strategy behind it, but really I think to give some more credibility to you guys, it would be helpful to even for me to do an interview with you, to whoever is like producing these picks. Like, it's hard because when somebody puts these numbers out, you can say, okay, there's a strike of this, we suggest these options, but these levels are not intuitive straight away. So where are these levels coming from? So if we break and hold this level, why is that? What's the strategy? How long has this been tested for? What is this? Is this break of high of the day? Is this break of previous pre-market highs? What is this level? I've not been able to figure that out, so maybe it'd be useful to elaborate on things like that. It'll give people more confidence into taking these alerts, and because some of them work, it's not a bad service from what I can see. For me to have confidence and not just buy blindly into these things without having a back-tested track record where you can show that every single one did this, and you had a 40% win rate, except they were all positive on the winners were much bigger than losers and stuff. Like, there's no history of that, and I think you guys would do a lot better if you actually did more of that, like had more of a track record. My plan here was to keep a track record, but there's literally too many trades to keep track of. However, the positive side of that, and that's something I want to cover today, is not that many of these trades actually trigger. In fact, this week I've only seen like one trigger, and for example today, which I just added down, actually I don't think I've added it yet, I'll add it in down here. Let's see where we're at. Oops. So I'll add into the review down here, but one good thing and bad thing at the same time is the alerts don't always trigger. So today we had Microsoft puts and SQ calls. It's 1229s. And so what's interesting here is, let's see where we're at. Microsoft. So I'm just going to put this on 1 day, 1 minute. And then zoom out. Try and squeeze these down. Actually, you know what's interesting? This hasn't updated. Let me just check pinned messages. So 1229. This is interesting. They've put the wrong date here, 1229. And so this is actually the wrong day. The wrong date at least. So let's look at Microsoft puts. So I'm not sure why that is. I'm guessing I'm not getting that wrong. Let me just check here. So 30th of December, yeah. So they've just got the date wrong up here. Anyway, the one thing that I've noticed that they've started to do, which is good, is you can scroll back through some of the stuff that you've previously, had. So you can go and look at the days that before, but you have to have joined first. You can't see the entire track record, which is still not great. Still no strike price, so no target price here. So we have an expiration. This was 0 DTE today, and it had to break and hold 234 below that for Microsoft puts to trigger. So if you look here, 234 is way down here. So this never ever came close to breaking that 234 to the downside. So these were never triggered today. And the other one was SQ calls. So if we go to SQ calls really quick. SQ calls was a similar story, 63.5, so we had to see a break and hold of 63.5 before you'd bet on going long on this. And if we go back to the Telegram, here we go, stop loss. So this never triggered either. So fair enough. Both trades today were no go, nothing triggered, no trades to take. So I guess from what I've seen so far, probably more than half the trades don't actually trigger, which is okay because I don't really want to be taking 5 trades a day first thing in the morning. And so remember, these are day trades, so it's not like, if this broke at the very end of the day, like on the very last candle, you'd want to be trading it. These are more morning trades, it seems like, morning to mid-morning. And basically they haven't been triggering much, so that's good because I don't want 20 trades a week. I just want 1 or 2, which are absolutely stellar. And that's where Bullseye Trades comes in. I've been talking to people about Bullseye for a while now. And if we go to my Bullseye Trades article, let's see if we can find it in here, you'll see why I love Bullseye Trades so much. So Bullseye Trades is half the price of the option Bandits, but it's much more easy to follow, and every trade is triggered, so you always have a trade. Doesn't always work, but they have a really high success rate, somewhere in the 90% range depending on how you play things. The last 2 were actually losers. I haven't updated this yet, well, in a future video, but you get these long green winning streaks, so as long as you're not put off by the odd losing trade, which tends to be about a 50% loss, so you have to be able to be okay with that kind of size of a loss. You can also get massive winners though, so like 300%, 285%. You can have really long green streaks, so like these are all winners, where you'll not lose money as long as you play it in a reasonably sensible fashion. See, we still have all winners down here. And I tend to make videos on these. Sometimes I put links to them, sometimes I embed them in the article, sometimes I don't. And so you can see the last losing trade was all the way back here after the last previous 2 or 3 I showed above. So this was June, so 6 months ago. So pretty cool. So it's one of my favorite services. I think you get a lot more information from Jeff, but you have to do something which a lot of people are not doing particularly diligently, is actually to check the emails pretty quickly. So I'm going to cover this more in a future video, but since I don't have a lot more to say about the option bandits, let me just go into my Raging Bull dashboard really quick and show you kind of what I'm meaning, and then I'll do a full video about this tomorrow probably. So just signing into my Raging Bull dashboard here, do the whole disclaimer thing. Jeff Bishop, Bullseye Trades. Remember, this is only one trade a week as opposed to several a day with the option bandits thing, but in my opinion this is a better system. It's much more passive, it's half the price, and this was the trade for this week. So this was a miserable failure, but one thing I wanted to point out that some people were complaining about is how did they know when to size appropriately, and people were going in harder and harder because there'd been so many winners. So it's worth reading this entire blurb that he sends out on Monday mornings. And one thing that I looked at particularly is this line at the bottom here. I have no doubt this will be a wild week. In times like these, I want to size down on positions and make sure I don't have a lot of risk. I expect that trades I make will either be big winners or near complete losers. And so the people that read these emails carefully and take the whole learning experience on board will have known to go pretty small in this. And this is easy because the contracts were very cheap, typically around $100 each. So the idea here is, if you don't learn from Jeff and read these emails carefully and even listen to his 11 a.m. Eastern Time broadcasts, then you're not going to do as well as the people that do take it very seriously and learn his strategy. And you can learn the whole strategy from these emails and from Jeff's videos every Monday, and it definitely makes a difference. So I was talking to a guy earlier and he was saying, like, which one would you suggest? And overall I'd suggest that the Jeff Bishop Bullseye Trades is a better program than the other one. So the other one's a lifetime option, the option Bandits. It's $200 for life, whereas Bullseye Trades, via the special discount I got from Raging Bulls, only $99 for a year. But a year is more than enough. I mean, I don't think much further out than a year. And the diligence and the learning that you get from Bullseye Trades, like actually understanding the thought process behind the trade, is much higher than with the option Bandits. So that's kind of my recommendation. I still like option Bandits, still going to take their trade sometimes, but there's a few red flags that I still need them to hammer out. And if you're watching this, Mr. Option Bandits people, send me an email. I've already emailed you twice from my main email address, so you can send me an email, and if you want to start addressing some of these issues, I'd be happy to work with you on that and see if we can get more people interested in your services. Alright guys, I'll talk to you soon.